Hello, my name is Harrison, and I'm Gabrielle's little brother. I'm excited to be here today to introduce my awesome sister. 8 years ago, when Gabrielle found out Mom was having me, she was, let's say, a little sad. Gabrielle wanted to put me into a box with a no return label. When she realized that wasn't an option, and I was here to stay, she just decided to pretend I was a girl. She would always put dresses on me and tiaras. I was too young to realize what she was doing, and now we have funny pictures. Now looking back on this, we can laugh because my sister Gabrielle is awesome for so many reasons. She lets me sleep in her room and watch movies. We're Netflix buddies. We go swimming together. I can always count her to push me off the pier. She takes me out for ice cream. Our favorite place is the Chocolate Factory. I'll miss a lot of stuff. I'll miss going bowling with my sister Gabrielle. We also like pillow fights, and we play hide and seek too. When I am scared, she is right there checking on me in the night to let me know it's okay. It took us a while to bond, but now that we have, I will miss her so much when she goes to college. I know no matter where she is, she'll always be there for me. Well, she is always so proud of me and everything I do, and there is to celebrate my awesomeness as well as my defeats. She knows how to make me smile when I'm sad and just what to say. I always love you, Belle.
Picture this. It's 10 p.m. on a Sunday night. You're cozied up in bed, eating ice cream and binging your favorite show on Netflix. Then you look at the clock and panic sets in. The essay is due tomorrow morning. Actually, this essay was due last week. You just self-extended it until tomorrow morning. You race to your computer, wishing you hadn't waited until the last minute. You realize that if you had just written it when it was assigned, you could have avoided this entire situation. But alas, the next thing you know, it's 11:30 and still, no ideas brainstormed, no words typed, no essay written. This is me right now, writing the senior speech I've had 4 years to think about, not only the night before it's due, but the night before my self-appointed extension is due. I wish I could stand up here and give you all a striking and heartfelt speech that makes you think about the meaning of life. But the truth is, I can't. When I was a freshman, I remember listening to all of these motivational speeches by the seniors that seemed to have their life perfectly strung together by the end of high school. I figured by the time I got here, I would be in the same place. However, I think I am just as disorganized and unprepared as I was entering high school my freshman year. In fact, it might just be worse. With that, since I have no life-changing advice to give you all, instead I will tell you about what not to do. Looking back, my demise is clear. The one thing in my academic career that has been constant is my intense procrastination. Because you see, it doesn't matter how much time I have to do something, it will simply not be started until the day before or later. For me, an assignment due today means to do today. Don't get me wrong, I try my best to come off as a well-put-together individual to my teachers, but it is really just an illusion I create to hide the fact that I have no idea what I'm doing most of the time. To many, the cause of one's procrastination is chalked up into one term: laziness. However, I would like to argue that laziness actually has nothing to do with it at all. The way I see it, procrastination can be split up into 5 main causes: perfectionism, feeling inadequate, being stretched too thin, not knowing where to start, or the biggest, fear. Firstly, we have perfectionism. This is the theory that the work I submit has to be perfect. So because I put it off for so long and there is limited time left, there is no way it can be perfect. Therefore, I should just not start it at all. For example, while beginning the college process this year, I found that I wasted the first few months after applications opened simply because the task of writing one essay good enough to get me into my dream school seemed way too daunting a task. This ties into the next of our main reasons, feeling inadequate. These are the thoughts that swirl around my head telling me I'm not smart enough to be taking this class in the first place, so why should I even try? Feeling inadequate allows me to take an incredibly realistic assignment and not do it at all, because I think nothing I submit will be good enough. With that comes the third reason, being stretched too thin. April of 2020 is a perfect example of this for me. It was the beginning of quarantine and online school, so I decided to up my hours at work. This eventually led me to work 40 hours a week while also going to school, keeping up with homework, and starting to prepare for college. I was stretched so thin, something had to give, leading me to my all too familiar friend, procrastination. The fourth reason I find myself procrastinating is not knowing where to start. It's kind of like when your room gets so messy it gets to the point where you cannot bring yourself to clean it because you don't even know where to begin fixing such a mess. That is arguably a direct reflection of my life, which is a large reason why I procrastinate in the first place. However, possibly the biggest reason of them all would be fear. Fear of rejection, fear of the unknown, fear of the uncomfortable. Trying new things is scary, so I choose to put it off so I don't have to meet that fear head on. And it is at these times that avoidance becomes the very thing we stray away from, procrastination. So if you ever feel like you're a bad student or simply a lazy person because of your procrastination, just remember that you're not, and you're worth so much more than due dates and small assignments. Your mental health is far more important, and it happens to the best of us. We all have those times where we feel like our qualities are subpar, and often our counterintuitive response to that can come back to bite us. So I guess if there's one thing that I've taken away from high school, it's that it's totally okay to not have your life perfectly pieced together by the time it's almost over. That being said, can I have an extension for my final draft of this? Thanks.
I met Anna during my freshman year at hockey. We sat next to each other on the bus while on our way to a game. We hardly spoke a single word to each other the entire duration of the trip, but little did I know, she was soon to become the best friend I've ever had. Thanks to Anna's influence, we soon started a tradition amongst the two of ourselves in which we would sing and play games as loudly as possible every single bus ride. Naturally, this meant our poor teammates had to listen to us belt All I Want for Christmas Is You for 6 hours straight on our way to a tournament. However, I simply see this as a perfect example of Anna's infectious personality. She has the remarkable ability of making even the shyest of people as outgoing as she is. So, here she is, Anna Schultz, the funniest, most hardworking person I've had the good fortune of befriending, as well as the best pancake maker in the world.
While I may not be a lifer, I have dedicated 8 years to USM. So far, no year has been more impactful and extraordinarily life-changing than junior year. I firmly believe that much of my character and personality has come from last year. As I stand here before you, I want to let you in on a few lessons I learned that may be helpful to you in the future. It all began the second month of the first semester. To this day, I'm still not sure how it all happened, but I like to think it was fate. One second, I was a contributing member to America's unemployment rate, and the next, I landed myself a job at a small pancake restaurant. It was really all quite exhilarating since this was my first job, and the competitive side to me was determined to be the best employee. I was quickly thrown out of my fantasy of dominating the kitchen as I realized cooking pancakes was a lot harder when your customers are expecting high quality. I learned that the hard way. Here's lesson number 1. Listen closely, this is the most important one. Cooking a perfect pancake is in the minor details. Yes, it's crucial to cook over constant heat and to flip on time. However, the soft and supple look comes from the oiling step. It's easy to quickly spray Pam or rub some butter on the griddle, but it takes more time to wipe the pan to make it completely smooth. You might find it ridiculous that the instructions to cook a pancake is the most important lesson. However, a key takeaway is that it's imperative to pay attention to the details. Even the smallest adjustments, like removing any droplets of oil, make a big difference in the final outcome. After a few months, I was cooking waffles and French toast in addition to pancakes. By then, I had gained more experience both in the kitchen and out. I'll tell you this though, my skills of patience have never been tested more than when working with customers. Every Thursday, right before closing time, we'd get the same woman who always ordered the same meal. My coworkers and I would call her a closer for this reason. For the sake of this lesson, let's call her Xandra. Xandra was a particular woman who seemed to be a perfectionist. You can imagine every Thursday afternoon, I'd meticulously flip the French toast and present it in the most appetizing way possible. The first time she received my dish, her nose and eyebrows turned up simultaneously and her lips morphed into a frown. She didn't leave a tip and left without eating more than a few bites. I was stunned. I'd failed before, but this hurt me more than words could express. However, I picked my head up and continued on, figuring I would never see her again. I was wrong. The second time was no better than the first. On her third return, I was ready. I took advantage of the time I had before she arrived to start on her order, so when she sat down, her food would be out shortly. This time, I personally served her meal, looked her in the eye, gave her the warmest smile I could muster, and said, "It's nice to see you here again, Sandra. Have a nice meal." And for the first time, she smiled, ate her meal, and left a tip. Sometimes in life, you'll meet difficult people and will have the choice of how to respond. It might be easier to blame them or to lash out in anger, but that doesn't mean we should. You might find that a little bit of respect and being personal with your customer can go a long way. Finally, this last piece of advice comes from Mark Twain. Find a job you enjoy doing, and you will never have to work a day in your life. I'd roll my eyes and make a sarcastic comment had I not been part of this life-changing experience. Work became family to the point where I could call the manager Papa Louie. I generally enjoyed coming in every day, and the challenges that came with the job only encouraged me to work harder. Unfortunately, I am no longer working at Papa's Pancakeria, but if my speech has inspired you to pursue a career in breakfast foods, please check out their website at coolmathgames.com.
Hi, my name is Susie. Nicklin is a close friend of mine who I've had the pleasure of growing up alongside. I've seen him change from a immature 7th grader who shot me in the leg with a staple gun into a hardworking leader who works to lift his teammates up. When Nick becomes interested in something, his enthusiasm is clear to everyone around him. Few others stay countless hours after school to build and fix USM's robot the night before competition, and he single-handedly designed the entire robot. So when I think about Nick, right now, I think about a hardworking, determined leader.
When I was 6 years old, I got my first guitar and fell in love instantly. When I first started, I was terrible, barely being able to play the simplest riffs and chords. However, I kept with it, learning different genres and techniques in order to improve my playing. Originally, I would just play classic rock songs. However, I've since diverged out into many different genres and styles of music. I have also amassed a very large collection of guitars, 13 to be exact. You might say it's a bit much, but each and every one of them has a specific and unique purpose. Some I might play jazz on, where others are better suited for rock. I've slowly collected them over the years and have come to love each and every one of them. People always ask which one is my favorite, but that's impossible to decide. If I really had to decide, I think I would pick my Purple Ibanez, which is my most recent guitar, and the only reason I would say that one is because it can play the most diverse styles of music. I've since branched out from guitar. When I moved to Wisconsin and started at USM in 6th grade, I picked up saxophone. Originally, I would solely play saxophone in band, but have since branched out into playing jazz in my free time with it. 2 years ago, I also started playing drums and keyboard. I managed to get a massive drum set with about 9 toms for only $800 by just combining two really, really crappy drum sets into one. And it somewhat works. Keyboard I mostly just use to complement other instruments in recordings, such as adding chords behind a guitar solo. I also started learning drums for the same reason. However, I found that I enjoy them way too much to just be a background instrument, just for me personally. I'm pretty sure the drums are my parents' least favorite instrument, as when I play them, the entire house shakes. Along the way, I have also picked up more interesting, however, maybe not as useful instruments. I have a kazoo, but ask yourself, when's the last time you've heard a kazoo in Billboard's Top 100 song? Anyway, that was just a brief overview of all the instruments that I've picked up over the years.
Peter, if you didn't know, is my younger brother. You might be confused by this fact, because if you've ever met me, he has probably introduced me as his little sister. Not in reference to our ages, but in reference to the fact that he is almost a foot taller than me and likes to constantly remind me of this fact. While as children, and sometimes nowadays, we have not always gotten along. But there is no one else who I would fly halfway across the country to watch their state championship hockey game or have constantly roast me over a game of cards. Well, we still probably see each other as much as we did when I lived at home. You're still the best brother a girl could have. I know our only form of communication will probably continue to be memes and TikToks, but I miss you all the same. I love you, Pebble. And now I am proud to introduce my little brother, Peter Els.
Firstly, I'd like to thank my parents, who have supported me unconditionally throughout my time in high school, and have done everything in their power to help me succeed. I'd like to thank my sister next, for being one of my closest friends throughout high school, and I know she'll always be there for me, no matter how annoying or frustrating I can be to her. Unlike my sister, I also live with somebody who will never, ever have any feelings of anger towards me. Someone who can't even conceptualize a single thought of annoyance. My dog, General. A red lab, he's a constant source of energy and pure excitement, even to the point of my own annoyance. Throughout his 7 years in our home, not once has he accepted that my family doesn't want to pet him or throw the ball for him outside. At dinner, while watching a movie, playing cards, he's always poking his nose into other people's business, literally, hoping somebody will pay him even the slightest bit of attention. My family has tuned him out in these situations, as we've accepted he'll always refuse to go away. However, my friends, on the other hand, have not. Whenever my friends are at my house, he's essentially on a leash, accompanying us, whether we're going water skiing, swimming, playing video games, he has to be there. Unlike me, my friends have a particular fondness for his presence, especially my friend George. Since the first day we brought General home, George hasn't called him General a single time. A 5th grade George decided that General sounded an awful lot like Jenner, and thus the name Bruce was born, mimicking Bruce Jenner. While I refuse to call him Bruce, I'm the only one of my friends who does so, to an extent where many of my friends have legitimately believed that my dog is named Bruce. The name simplicity is what's caused it to stick for so long, along with George's incessant laugh that follows him going, Bruce, every single time he sees him. Every single time. For a dog, General is rather well trained, so I never use a leash when I take him on a walk, take him to the park to play fetch, or anything of that nature. Seeing as he's so excited that we have to play fetch while we're on the way to the park as well. While this makes an ordinary trip to the park much easier as he runs freely and he's obedient enough to follow directly behind me when I need him to, not every trip to the park is ordinary. And I've had a few run-ins where he's nearly taken out other dogs or owners. One time, 2 bikers approaching on the other side of the path were nearly cut off as he cut right in front of them just as they drew near. I apologized profusely as they swerved and continued on their way, thankfully unharmed. Another time, he and another dog spent at least 5 or 10 minutes in constant pursuit of one another all throughout the park, refusing to listen as the other dog's owner and I repeatedly tried to calm them down. While he's a very smart dog, he can be very stupid as well. And these times are just some of the many examples where I've questioned his intelligence. I spent more time with General than probably anyone else I know. With him sleeping on my bed every night, he's yet to understand that I need to have a portion of the bed to myself to be comfortable. It's not uncommon for me to wake up in the middle of the night, nearly falling off my bed as he sleeps like a log in the dead center. I feel guilty moving him though, so I've just accepted that about a quarter of the space on my bed is actually reserved for me. However, I wouldn't trade his company for the world, and even his selfishness isn't enough for me to kick him off. The most important advice I can give you is to find yourself somebody, a friend, a pet, or anybody who you know will be there for you through thick and thin. Somebody who you share a mutual, unconditional love with, and I promise that they will make every single day of your life better, as General has done for me. He has been there for me at my best and my worst, and even though he can't talk, he's still my best friend. In addition to General, I'd like to thank all of my great friends who I've had the privilege of spending these last 4 years with. I've created memories with so many people in this school that will last a lifetime, and these years would not have been the same without you guys. Thank you.
I've known Reed for like 6 years, and he's always been a very interesting person. Any class you're in with him, it turns from just being a class to a class with Reed in it. Reed always knows how to make everybody laugh, and any class or anything you have with him instantly turns very interesting. I'm proud to say that I've been in advising with Reed for the past 4 years, and it's made advising very fun. Anyway, here's the man, the myth, the legend himself, Reed Woods.
For the last 18 years, every year, no matter the season, I constantly spent time up in my family cabin on Lake Winnebago. I spent countless days, weeks at a time, taking in the Winnebago air and living life to the fullest. From wakeboarding for the first time as a kid to accidentally dropping my mom's ring into the water, I encountered many memorable moments and events that I can look back upon now. I never really saw the importance of my family cabin. However, the start of high school really changed me. Focusing my time on sports and hanging out with friends, I haven't taken much time to go to the cabin in the last 4 years, going maybe a couple times a year rather than each season when I was younger. I can look back now knowing that, once again, I will have another year that I won't get to visit the cabin as much as I'd like to. Going off to college is going to bring me big things, yet the little things that I had taken for granted will go away. The hours I could spend with my uncle snowmobiling around on the frozen lake, and the nights I could spend eating s'mores with peanut butter brought me happy times. The cabin being a place where I didn't think about the outside world. I didn't think about the countless tough times I had been through. Now, as I get older, especially in horrible times like these, I can look back on my past and see what I had taken for granted and what I wish I could have at this very moment. The change in a person, the change in myself for the better, yes, on the outside, is a great thing. But always on the inside, you wish you could go back to those times and those places where you could forget about stressful moments encountered in your life. Cherish the places that gave you your childhood, because you will miss them forever if you don't. Thank you.